Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you are located currently. I hope you enjoyed the day so far and had a lot of fun listening to all of those great speakers sharing their valuable content around Windows Virtual Desktop. This is already the third event in an XXL format, Microsoft Meets Community, and I'm super excited to deliver some cool content around the future of application delivery in a fast, secure, or efficient way to improve your Windows Virtual Desktop workloads on Azure. My name is Patrick Kohler. I'm a senior Azure architect and technical leader at Elgon, a Luxembourgish MSP. I'm also organizing the German Windows Virtual Desktop user group, as well as the WVD TechFest next year. But most of you know me by using my Twitter handle WVD Logics. So feel free to reach out to me during or after the session. I'm always happy to help and answer your question. And a special thanks goes also out to Christian and Dean for having me today. Today I have a lot of demonstrations prepared for you, as well as all the theoretical knowledge to get started the right way with MSIX App Attach in your enterprise or lab environment. We will take care that we cover a practical use case like we already have it in place for a customer, so that you can see how it's being used in production. Okay, so the key takeaways for today should be that you are equipped with fundamental knowledge about MSIX packages and the functionality called App Attach. This should give you a general overview and explanation how to reduce your golden images by containerizing the apps and to learn where are the limitations. We will also cover storage options as well as container security, so how can MSIX packages and App Attach containers help to secure the application from being manipulated. Then we will choose also the right toolset, so do you need to be a PowerShell addict to get started with MSIX, or are there any kind of free tools available? Then we will take a sneak peek into the future integration of MSIX App Attach. And last but not least, we have a huge demonstrations prepared where we can summarize everything we've learned theoretically. Sounds good? Let's get started directly with a demonstration. What is MSIX App Attach? And this is what I'm going to show you right now. All right, let's start with the first short demonstration. On the left side, you can see I've prepared already some MSIX packages presenting some applications we want to deliver to this session host here. As you can see in the start menu, those applications are not installed on the system, so there's nothing I can present you here, but we need to install them by using the power of MSIX App Attach. I've already prepared all the scripts which I'm going to explain you at a later point of time in this session, as well as my VHDX container containing all of those applications stored on a network location. First of all, in step number 1, we need to present the session hosts or the session host with the VHDX file that's getting mounted, and junction points for each application will be created. And once this is done, we need to register so that the user is able to see the applications. And this is what happens at this stage. And this is the provisioning process, and you can see how fast this is working to provision those applications in this short amount of time. And this is what you can see actually here. And if we want to start an application, it feels like the application was installed on the local system. Of course, this is depending on the sizing of the virtual machine as well. And as you can see, within a few seconds, we are presented with the application itself. If you don't want to give access to those applications anymore, you can simply run the deregistering process, which will remove the applications from the end user. And you can see within a few seconds, all those applications won't be available to the end user anymore. If we check back in the start menu, you can see that those applications have been removed. And finally, you can perform the destaging to remove the junction points as well as unmounting the VHD or VHDX. And we have a clean system again. Perfect. The first demonstration is over. Now let's summarize what is MSIX. MSIX is a Windows app package format that provides a modern packaging experience to all Windows apps. The MSIX package format preserves the functionality of existing app packages and install files, in addition to enabling new modern packaging and deployment features to Win32, WPF, and Windows Forms apps. Existing app installers can be used to create the MSIX package, for example by using the MSIX packaging tool from the Microsoft Store. Generally spoken, you benefit from MSIX in these points. First of all, you it's very reliable. MSIX provides a reliable install with an approximately 99% success rate of install and uninstall. It provides you with network bandwidth optimization, so MSIX decreases the impact to the network bandwidth dramatically in the network by downloading only the 64K block. Additionally, you benefit from disk space optimizations. With MSIX, there's no duplication of files across apps, and Windows manages the shared files across those applications as well. The apps are still independent of each other, so updates will not impact other applications on the system that share the file. A clean uninstall is guaranteed even if the platform manages shared files across applications. But let us have a look right now what's inside of an MSIX package itself. A classical MSIX package contains the following files. Of course, the application required files itself. Then you will find something called the AppX manifest. And this is a package manifest in an XML document that contains the information about the system that it needs to deploy, display, and update an MSIX app. This info includes the package identity, package dependencies, required capabilities, visual elements, and extensibility points. You will also find something called AppX block map. The package block map file is an XML document that contains a list of the app's files along with indexes and cryptographic hashes for each block of data that is stored inside of the package. You will also find something like an AppX signature, which is actually used to sign the MSIX package to be able to run it. And the AppX signature.p7x is generated when, like I said, when the package is signed itself, and all MSIX packages are required to be signed before you are able to install them. With the AppX blockmap.xml, the platform is able to install the package, and this will be validated finally. Apps that are packaged, to summarize, using MSIX are running in a lightweight app container. The MSIX app process and its child processes run inside the container and are actually isolated using file system and registry virtualization. All MSIX apps can read the global registry, but an MSIX app writes to its own virtual registry, an application data folder. And this data will be deleted when the app is uninstalled or reset. Other apps do not have access to the virtual registry or the virtual file system of this particular MSIX app. Okay, generally speaking, to summarize now, what kind of ways do we have to bring software to WVD Session Host? Generally, we summarize 3 ways of doing this for WVD Session Host or the images itself. And the first option, what you can see here, is to classically install all applications on a virtual machine on Azure, install the required applications per use case finally, including their dependencies, sysprep it, generalize the image, capture it in Azure, and store it inside of a shared image gallery, for example. This can be achieved by defining an image definition containing the specific use case you've prepared and updating it using the image versions to enable you or your client for the classical way of update image management. At this stage, I have to mention that I will not cover the automated ways of preparing this image using ARM templates or Azure Image Builder, for example, but I have some good recommendations to share with you later. But first of all, I want to highlight the pros and cons of that solution. The pros are definitely that you can install the applications in a common way like you are used to it for years. Dependencies can be tested like it's being delivered, means actually that you can test the applications and their dependencies directly while installing on the image itself. The negative points are, for example, that you have a very manual process in the delivery itself, and for each use case this takes a lot of time. The second point is actually that when we humans install something, there might be possible mistakes, or the software has been updated and the dependencies create mistakes. There are actually multiple points of failure inside the process itself. And finally, the update management requires also new image versions, which leads us to need more storage, for example, or more image versions. But this is not what I'm going to cover right now in detail. The second way of delivering applications is the way of app masking functionalities provided by FSLogix. App masking is being used to manage user access of already installed applications on the system by granting access through security groups in your Active Directory environment. Based on Microsoft's documentation, it's recommended to use app masking most likely non-persistent talking in the WVD terminology, pooled desktop scenarios, to reduce the number of golden images and their use cases while having all apps already installed on the machine and granting access while making the apps visible through the FSLogic's app rule editor. The pros are clear that we have less images to manage or less image use cases, as we can install most of the software on one image. The access will be finally defined at a global scale through security groups in your Active Directory environment. But when we compare it with the negative points, we can see that all applications, or the most of them, need to be installed. Apps might also consume more resources as necessary when we have that many applications installed on the image itself. And finally, the app rules must be defined on a per machine level. We can also benefit from delivering the rule set via group policy, but actually if we want to do it the right way, we need to do it on a per machine level. And the third option is to deliver our applications the containerized way through MSIX App Attach. MSIX App Attach is Microsoft's modern application delivery technology using the MSIX package format. This technology enables you to separate applications from the core operating system and deliver applications to users dynamically. It's suggested that MSIX App Attach is similar in the concept of FSLogic's profile containers, where the user profile is detached and filter drivers are used to redirect the profile to a virtual disk. Besides that, App Attach delivers the fastest provisioning experience for MSIX applications in a non-persistent VDI environment. The pros are also clear. With the new released Windows 10 Enterprise and single and multi-session build 20H2 or the build 2004, the MSIX APIs are already embedded into the OS, so it makes it easier to use MSIX App Attach directly. You benefit clearly from less re-imaging or image use cases in general. You can use the same package format across the organizations, where you have that containers which will be simply attached to the user session. There's actually no repackaging needed, so you can take existing MSIX packages and just containerize them. You benefit also from an agentless provisioning of apps on a per user basis. As well, you are able to control those apps provisioned per user, and this is what we see in the first demonstration. I have to mention at this stage that MSIX App Attach is still in public preview at this stage. But that leads us to the questions. If you got curious, what are the requirements to get started with MSIX App Attach? First of all, like mentioned earlier, you need to have Windows 10 2004 or 20H2 or version 19.04 one Insider's Preview release installed. You need to have an SMB compatible network share, as well as that the session host must have read permission to the share itself. So it's not only required to have access to the user, you also need to grant access to the session host in a read-only mode. And you finally need to assign all MSIX packages to be able to start them. But more regarding this a little bit later. Before we jump now into the second demonstration of the day, let me explain you quickly the terminology while using MSIX containers. Generally, when we talk about the preparation of MSIX packages for App Attach, we use the following declaration, starting with the expanding the MSIX to an app container. This is actually the process where we take an MSIX package and unpack it or expand it to a VHD or VHDX container. It will be equipped with the software represented as MSIX package and simply being containerized. Afterwards, we can store the VHD or VHDX file on a global position within our network, which is represented as the network share. And for that, we need to make sure that this network share is SMB compatible. One remark at this stage: when you create such a container, meaning the VHDX or VHD, you need to create a parent folder to make the App Attach process work. Once this is done, our MSIX container is ready to be attached to the session host itself, and this will happen at the staging process. And all of the following steps are actually PowerShell scripts, which I'm also going to present you and how this is working, because you will need to prepare them to make the next steps available. Okay, so in this step, the staging step, the VHD or VHDX will be mounted to the session host itself and junction points will be created. The application itself is at this stage not yet visible to the end user. This will be actually the case at the next step, which is the registering step, where the application itself will be presented to the end user when the VHD has been mounted. More technically speaking, the MSIX file will be added to the C program files and Windows apps folder. Once this is done, a user can use the application as if it was installed on the local system. And the last two declarations, the deregistering and destaging, are the processes where we revert all changes we made to the system, while removing the access to the app for the users in the deregistering process and dismounting the VHD and deleting the junction points at the destaging. And a final remark, if you want to use those scripts to build up something which is semi-automated by using group policies, for example, you can use those scripts actually for that. And this is what I'm showing you in the first demonstration. You need to remember that the PowerShell scripts for staging and destaging needs to be applied on a computer level, where registering and deregistering will be applied on a computer level. But before we jump into that demonstration, I want to quickly highlight you the procedure, how this is working with MSIX App Attach in general. In most WVD environments, containers are already present in form of an FSLogix profile or office container. This one will be logically attached during the logon process to the system. Additionally, every application container mentioned earlier, which we stored on our preferred storage location, will be attached if the user is privileged to it and if the session host is able to read the network storage location. This will be attached at this stage. And this gives us the chance, once the application is registered to the user session, that if user A requests Visual Studio Code and the app got mounted successfully, user B, working on the same session host probably, will not be able to see it unless he registers also for the app container or the application. And this allows us to clearly control which user gets access to which applications in our environment, which reduces the number of golden images dramatically, as we are pulling the app container from a certain storage location to our session host. Okay, and I would say it's time for the second demonstration. On the left side you can see an MSIX package which I've already prepared, and on the right side the same MSIX package containerized into a VHD container, including all of the scripts required to get started with the App Attach process. How this works and how to do the transition from an MSIX file to the container, this is something I'm going to show you in the second demonstration of the day. For now, I'm going to show you what's happening from the staging process up to the destaging process. For that reason, I've already opened the PowerShell scripts. As we've learned a little bit earlier, stage number 1, the staging process, will be used to attach the VHD, or our container basically said, to the computer, to the virtual machine, whatever we are using here, and create a junction point where the application is presented to the end user system. Step number 2 is actually the point where the user registers the application and where the application will be actually presented to the end user. Step number 3, the deregistering process, is actually to take away the application, to remove it from the end user, and the destaging process finally dismounts the VHD file from the system itself. How this is looking like is what we're going to see right now. What I've prepared already is our remote desktop application by Microsoft used to access Windows Virtual Desktop resources. One of my clients is using this application as an MSIX container to access resources from another host pool to simply start other applications which are not present on the current host pool where the user is actually working on. And as you can see in the start menu, we are not presented with the remote desktop application here. So it's not present to our current user. We start actually step number 1, the staging process, and this is what I'm going to do right now. The VHD will be mounted successfully to the system, the junction will be created, and once we've started the registering process, this is what you can see here, the application should be available immediately. That was easy, right? Now we simply need to start the application and it will be opened as we know and as we're used to and as it was normally installed on the local system. Alright, and that was the manual attachment process. If you want to know how you can semi-automate this process, meaning that the applications will be presented to your end users more or less automatically, you can go for group policy. And this is what I'm going to show you right now. So I've already established a connection to my domain controller. And as you can see, I've created a group policy object here called MSIX RDP app, where I want to exactly, attach this application. Based on the theory we know already that we need to use the computer configuration here and the scripts staging and destaging for the processes. I did it a little bit more, manually, because that is the way how it works, the most reliable way for me actually. So first of all, at the startup of the system itself, the staging process should happen. During the shutdown, you will see that the destaging will happen. And in the meantime, at the user process level, we can see while logging on, the registration will happen by running the registration script. And at the log off, to not consume any kind of resources anymore, we see the deregistering process. And this is how it's being done. How this is looking right now, I'm going to switch back to my local computer to show you how the logon behavior is right now while having those scripts in place. Okay, I've started the remote desktop app on my local computer. As you can see, I have two workspaces here presented, one for my standard computing power and one for the MSIX App Attach pool where I perform my testings. And this is also the desktop where I want to connect to. Finally, I log on with my user credentials here. Confirm, and I will wait until the magic happens automatically. So my computer is being started. The application was not present as we saw it a little bit earlier. This varies also depending on the size of the virtual machine and the performance of the underlying storage and network. In my case, I'm going to have a look at the start menu, and we can see here the remote desktop app is presented as well. Okay, all right. How can I prove that the application hasn't been installed prior to the demonstration? This is something you can check in two ways, and this is what I'm going to show you right now. First of all, you hover the Windows icon, do a right click and go to Disk Management. And here you should see the virtual hard disk with our application inside. When I scroll a little bit down, you can see that this has been attached successfully to our system. If you are addicted to PowerShell, you can also use this one or the standard CMD. Just type mount vol, and you can see as well all volumes connected, as well as where's the junction point. And here you can see where this actually is. So a temp folder, app attach, remote desktop in the version. So this is actually the MSIX package unpacked. And this perfect. What you have seen in this demonstration is how the processing PowerShell scripts are built and what they actually mean. How to manually start the MSIX App Attach container, and how to configure these PowerShell scripts mentioned earlier via group policy to automate or semi-automate and control the attachment process. The next question is, where can I actually store my containers? For me, we have three options available. First of all, we have something Azure Files, which we are going to focus on today as well, in a premium tier with AD authentication and recently announced SMP multi-channel. I would say something to that a little bit later. Additionally, we have something called Azure NetApp Files if you need more enterprise scale storage, or you can also use additionally a file server virtual machine on Azure. But if we focus on Azure Files in the premium tier, combined with the features, you can see that the customers first of all benefit from a lower deployment and management cost, as the service will be fully managed by Microsoft and you don't have to create any virtual machines that are acting as file servers. You can also benefit from Active Directory authentication to help you integrate your already existing security permissions and groups and apply them on Azure Files. And last but not least, like mentioned earlier, the SMP multi-channel feature, which has been introduced a few weeks ago, which allows you to establish multiple connections from an SMP free client for better performance. And that means that what you can see on the next slide, that you see there's a clear improvement from Azure files in the premium tier as if you were using it with SMB multi-channel. But that's something we're not going to cover today. I will write a blog post about this and so that you can read everything how to set it up. But as it's currently in preview, we will not focus anymore on it. Next, we have the container security. And one of the main benefits of MSIX is that it's really security-driven architecture. This is provided first by the app container and second by the fact that each MSIX package carries a digital signature. Why should you sign an MSIX package? When deploying the package itself, the operating system uses the digital signature to confirm that it can trust the original owner or builder of the package. The digital signature is the standard method to ensure a package is not manipulated somehow. Digital signing involves attaching a hashed value that contains the package file to an alternate stream of the file to validate that the file contents have not changed since signing. And if we see the possibilities here, how to sign that, you can see that you have two possibilities actually for signing. First of all, you can sign an MSIX package by using an internal or external CA. Internally can be represented as Active Directory Authority Services. External CA can be any trusted provider. But you can also go additionally, or you have additionally also the possibility to go for self-signed certificates, which you can see here to sign your package. If you want to go for a self-signed certificate, for example, you can see the PowerShell script I've used or which I use on the right side here, but make sure that this certificate must be imported to the session host or each session host where you want to run your application. And this can be first of all achieved by exporting the certificate from your local certificate store. Go to Personal Certificate, select the one you've created and export it. And then you need to import this to the computer certificate store as well to trust the people to each session host that need to open up the application. An important notice here before going to the next topic is that you need to make sure that this certificate has an expiration date. If it has no expiration date, it will be treated as invalid. When we have a look at the container security itself, we can see that by design a single MSIX expanded package to a VHD or VHDX can be shared between multiple session hosts and the VMs from our storage location. The good point is that these VMs will be opened in a read-only mode. Now we can check the toolset for App Attach. And I'm going to show you which kind of requirements are needed to pack an MSIX package and expand them for the usage of App Attach. First of all, I recommend that you have a virtual machine or physical PC for the packaging process in place, but I guess you're already aware of that. This PC should run at least Windows 10 1809 for the packaging, or Windows Insider or Windows 2004 or later if you want to test the App Attach process. And if you want to participate in the Insider program, you will need to get access to the Insider builds logically. You will need to have a valid Microsoft account to download the application from the Microsoft Store, so the MSIX packaging tool, as well as admin privileges to install the apps and dependencies on the system itself. And last but not least, a point to sign the MSIX packages, so the internal or external CA, or alternatively a self-signed certificate. On top of that, you need to create the PowerShell scripts for the App Attach process itself. You can get mine at the end of the presentation, or you will also see in the next demonstration how I did this exactly. For the App Attach process itself, you will also need a tool called MSIX Manager, which helps you to unpack the MSIX packages into your container for App Attach. But if you're not familiar with PowerShell but still want to test or expand the MSIX package, I can recommend you a tool from Pascal Berger, the MSIX Commander. And this tool allows you to, with a few clicks, to create your MSIX App Attach ready containers by just going to App Attach, select your MSIX file, one or multiple ones, and convert it to VHD. And now I'm going to show you in the next demonstration how this is being built and how to introduce you to pack multiple MSIX applications into one single container to cover a full use case for App Attach. I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a VHD or VHDX container for MSIX App Attach and to add multiple applications to the same container. Yes, that's right. Actually, you're not limited to use one MSIX package equals to one VHD or VHDX container. You can also add multiple MSIX packages, expand them to the same virtual hard disk, and you are able to create more or less easier use cases that way. And how this is working, this is part of our next demonstration. So we have our PowerShell 7.msix, which we saw a little bit earlier, and Visual Studio Code. And we want to combine both of those packages together into one MSIX App Attach ready container. To do so, we need to start in the PowerShell. And first of all, you need to prepare your computer, like mentioned in the slides. So you need to have at least Windows 10 1809 for the preparation. You need to download as well the MSIX packaging tool if you need to convert your application installers or your applications to an MSIX package. And you need to have another application in place. Let me quickly show you this one. It's the MSIX Manager. And this is what I stored simply here on my local hard drive. And this is the MSIX Manager that helps us to unpack and to expand our VHDX in this case for App Attach. Okay, so let's switch to the PowerShell ISE where I've already prepared some scripts for you, which we will use as kind of template. All of those scripts are available from now on my homepage, so you can go to wvdlogics.net, grab those to build your own App Attach ready containers. First of all, I want to mention here that when we create a new VHD or VHDX, like in my case, you need to ensure that you have enough space. So the space is sufficient, especially if you want to combine multiple applications together. In this case, 850 megabytes should be sufficient to combine both applications, and I will store it underneath ctemp and call this one MSIX admin.vhdx. Make it dynamic to benefit from shrinking processes or other scripts that can help me to manage that a little bit, and confirm to not receive any notification. Afterwards, we're going to mount this, and the script will automatically initialize it and create a new partition, as well as format it directly with the label MSIX admin, like I want to call it. So I grab it from here, paste it, and simply run the script. And you can see that the jump will be done automatically for us. In the background, you will notice that there's a message coming up where you want or where you need to format the disk, but as this is already done, you can simply click on cancel. And if we check our local hard drive again, we can see that below ctemp, a new VHDX container has been created with the size of 102 megabyte. 102? This is because we have set the VHDX to dynamic, so that means it grows when it's needed. Okay, but actually, currently the VHDX what we created is already mounted, and this is what you can see right here. As MSIX App Attach needs a parent folder to mount and especially create the junction later on, you need to create it right now. I call my parent folder inside of the VHDX which we have created right now also MSIX. And inside of that, we will store the applications. And this will be achieved by the MSIX manager.exe, what I showed you a little bit earlier. So I take this application, I go to C, Packages, MSIX Manager. This is the location where I've stored the application. The download link will be made available as well. I change my directory and execute the script. And I just need to change a few parameters, like the package name. And this is where I'm going to check right now. I choose my MSIX packages, the ones which I want to put into the MSIX App Attach container. Do Shift, copy as path, and just replace this one. Last but not least, I need to define the destination where I want to unpack my MSIX packages. And this is logically the recently created VHDX file. So I check this one. It's eMSIX. I copy this one and paste it into my PowerShell and apply the ACLs for the rights assignment. I hit enter, and actually what's happening right now, the MSIX package for PowerShell 7 will be extracted right into the recently created VHDX container. Alright, when this is done, we can add multiple applications to it. So we're not limited to 2 applications. This is just part of my demonstration. So we will take right now Visual Studio Code as the second application we want to add to our VHDX. So again, I copy the path of the MSIX file, replace the path here, and the destination will remain the same. So we can do it like this and just hit the enter button. And we can see when we have a look at the VHDX file, what's going on currently. So PowerShell 7 has been extracted already and Visual Studio Code is being unpacked. All right, now that we have our VHDX container prepared, we need to just update our scripts to make the app attach process running. And to do so, I have already prepared 4 scripts for staging, registering, deregistering, as well as destaging. The information you need to update here is especially the VHD source. So where is your VHDX container or where can it be found? The package name, meaning the applications stored inside of your container itself. In my case, this is Visual Studio Code and PowerShell 7, which is typed a little bit down below. The parent folder is MSIX, as well as the volume GUID. This one can be grabbed by typing the command mountfol. I will show this a bit later as well. And finally, the place where the junction itself happens, so meaning ctemp app attach. This is step number 1. Let's execute it to see what's going to happen. Actually, the VHDX will be mounted successfully and the junction point for both applications, PowerShell 7 and Visual Studio, will be created. And this is a positive outcome. When we check the local hard drive and we go to ctemp app attach, we can see that both applications are now present and the junction was successfully. The second script I've created is much easier to fill out. So you simply need to take the package name, also what we can see here, PowerShell 7, Visual Studio Code. This will be replaced by package name 2. There are no limitations, so you can take as much applications as fit to your container finally, and those will be registered and presented to the end user. So if we validate this one, we can see that PowerShell 7 and Visual Studio Code are not present here on the system. And when I run this script, you can see within a few seconds they are presented to our end users. And this is simply awesome. If we check the deregistering process, so the process of taking those applications away from my end users, you only have to fill out the package name and package name 2. The rest will be done. So let me execute this one. And you can see that the applications are removed from the start menu. Last but not least, that's a destaging process for the log off or shutdown process, where you need to type the VHD source, so the location where you have stored your VHDX file, as well as the package name and the package name 2, and more if needed. And this will finally remove the junction points, what we can see below ctemp app attach, as well as dismount the VHDX. And this is what we're going to run right now. You can see this was successful as well. And if we have a look at ctemp app attach, you can see that both folders have been deleted, the junction points have been removed. And this concludes our demonstration. If you want to use those scripts right now for your group policy, you can do so, meaning staging, as you know, for the computer policies, scripts at the startup, the destaging for the shutdown process, registering and deregistering are for log on as well as log off. What you have learned in this demonstration is how to expand an MSIX package as a preparation for App Attach. Additionally, we have seen how to prepare the scripts for MSIX App Attach and how to include the multiple applications into a single VHDX package. And now we will have a look at the future of MSIX App Attach, while having a look at the ARM integration, so the integration into the Azure portal for MSIX packages. And you can see those screenshots are not taken by me. Thanks to Tom Hickling here for writing the blog post. I've taken those pictures from over here to present that features to you. So on the left side, you can see what you can see when you click on the Windows Virtual Desktop Service on Azure. When you select your host pools, you can see on the left side, you will get a new option called MSIX Packages. This provides you with the functionality to add a new MSIX package, and like you can see it on the right side where you can select the image path, the package itself, as well as the display name. You can select how the application will be registered to the session host and the state if it's active or inactive. This was already great. Then it's even easier to grant access to the applications for the end user now that we have clarified the staging process to the session host. If we go to application groups and you want to add a new application, you will be presented with a new option called application source where you can select the MSIX packages. From over here, you can select the MSIX package you want to attach and grant the access through assigning the user permissions or group permissions afterwards. And this is actually the registering process where the application will be presented to the end user. Everything that you can do with the portal itself can also be done via PowerShell. And for this reason, there are new PowerShell scripts in place that help you to even automate some steps in between. But I'm not going to cover that. Something I'm really also looking into is the support for the SIM. SIM is a new file extension with the composite image file system SIMFS, which is much faster or provides a much faster attachment compared to VHD or VHDX. In addition, it also has less CPU consumption, like you can see it in the screenshot below, compared to the VHD and SIMFS file system. And when I have a look at the average mount time or unmount time, as well as the memory and CPU consumption, I am really curious to see how SIMFS is really being used in production. But if you want to start already with SIMFS or SIM today, I highly encourage you to check out AppCure. The preview version was released on the 16th of October, which enables you to already create SIM images ready for the potential release of WVD or the MSIX App Attach functionality in the portal. Additionally, I encourage you as well to check out the SIM util provided by Ryan Mangan. He created this community tool to already mount or dismount existing SIM containers. You need to register up on his GitHub account or on his website for a registration key, but he will provide you with that so you can check out how or which performance benefits you get by using the SIMFS or SIM container. Some other good resources I want to recommend is, of course, my blog. If you want to read anything we've covered today in a more step-by-step way, I've mentioned everything there in a new blog article. And you should also check out Ryan Mangan's IT blog, where he shares also a lot of content around Windows Virtual Desktop and MSIX packages. And I also recommend you to check out Desktops in the Cloud featuring Stefan Georgiev. He's one of the PMs for WVD, working most likely on the MSIX App Attach feature. And that's what you can use with the QR code here. Lastly, I have this great wallpaper prepared for you. So if you want to have it, you can grab it also from my homepage. And let's start our App Attach journey together. I'm really happy to connect with you in the future. And if you have any question, feel free to raise them. Thanks very much for watching my session today and have a lot of fun listening to all the other great speakers. Have a nice day. Thank you.